Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 8:48 a.m. East Coast time, Monday, September 30th. And today, what I want to do here on this channel is I want to take a first look at the NFL Week 5 salaries. I want to look at maybe just build a quick little cash game lineup, right? Something I've been doing here for beginning of last year, a little bit of inspired by Smiz, Al Zeidenfeld, the man himself. Great content over there. If you haven't checked out Al, check it out for sure. But yeah, it's just something fun that I do, right? This is my first time looking at the salary, so it's sort of like a hip-fire reaction of what I'm seeing right away. For me, it's the start to my process, if you will. Really have not done much for this week outside of just source the injuries from yesterday and all the targets and touches from yesterday. Those are all up on Patreon. But for the most part, looking at these salaries, nothing. I mean, all I'm seeing right here is the first 15 quarterbacks because that's what it just comes up as, right? So don't have any of the injury news come Thursday, right? We'll get a lot more of that when the second practices are in. Don't have much to go off of outside of just salaries and what we know about these players and the way the teams are playing for a quarter of the season so far, right? Outside of Monday Night Football tonight, depending on when you're watching this, quarter of the season is already over. So it's just something fun that I do. It's not something that you take for granted. It's not something that you take, not for granted, but seriously. You're not taking this lineup and playing it. There's not much deep research into it. It's just, let's look at the first look. Let's look at Week 5 has to see, and let's see what my reactions are to the pricing. So we do not have Patrick Mahomes in this slate. It's the first thing I noticed. Lamar Jackson, 7,100. Also, hey, by the way, subscribe to the channel. We hit 10,000. If you want $100 off my fantasy NFL course, comment down below that you want that coupon. I'll give it to you. Doing that since we hit 10,000. Giveaways as well. You can check out some content linked down below in the description. I have now merchandise for the channel, apparel, some shirts, maybe get some hats made up. I do have a Patreon with exclusive content. And then, yes, you can follow me on Twitter at SalVetchDFS. Some free strategy guides down there. So make sure to hit that subscribe, the like button. It's Monday. It's the best day of the week. Without a doubt, the best day of the week is Monday, in my opinion. Start the week off right. And also, we kind of get to start the month off right in a way. October coming through tomorrow. So, Lamar Jackson, 7,100. I had a lot of Lamar in week 3 and that late, or week 4, and that late touchdown deep, getting those extra 8 points. I mean, the guy's just a stud from what he can do with his legs and just garbage time. It doesn't matter. The guy is getting it done every single week so far. Really liked what Lamar Jackson did yesterday, but this week so far, no real interest at 7,100. In cash, I'm going to pay down more times than not. Usually try and find a 5K quarterback that's viable, if not low 6K range. Deshaun Watson's going to go up against Atlanta, which we just saw Marcus Mariota have success in terms of efficiency for touchdowns. Watson at 6,700. Yeah, 6,700 for Deshaun Watson. That's a pretty fair price point, I would say, for this matchup. It's not something, again, in cash that I'm really trying to prioritize. Brady at Washington. It's 6,500 is a nice price point, actually. What is this? This is sort of interesting, in my opinion. You get Kyler Murray going to Cincinnati. They still don't have Kyler Murray's picture up. What you doing with my mans, my God? But Kyler Murray, the interesting thing here is, yeah, the price point's tough. Cincinnati, though, really struggles. And we're going to watch them on Monday Night Football today, and maybe they get some things turned around, which I doubt, but really struggles just generating pressure, really defending the run, defending the pass, all around a bad defense. And Kyler Murray, we've seen it. The first 2 weeks he did it with his arm in terms of fantasy points. The last 2 weeks he's staying afloat with his legs. And when he puts it all together, it's going to be dangerous. The last 2 weeks, not doing too much through the air, right? I mean, last week, week 3, terrible. 4 yards per attempt was disgusting. This past week, though, he gets in on the ground for his first rushing touchdown of his NFL career. And now he has a very favorable matchup. So Kyler Murray's interesting. Maybe this is where we go to start for the week. Jameis at New Orleans. New Orleans defense has looked really, really stout. So a couple things here. Holding the Cowboys down last night after Cowboys offense looked fantastic. Kellen Moore, new offense, Dak, Zeke, everybody looking fantastic. Holding them down to 1 rushing touchdown by Zeke at home. That's scary. That's worrisome. I think that the Tampa Bay offense has more weapons. You had Dallas without Michael Gallup, starting Devin Smith on the outside. It was pretty much just the Zeke show in the passing game as well, and then some Amari last night. Jason Witten, tight ends, getting involved, but I think there's more weapons for sure. We saw Chris Godwin battle through a hip injury and just ball out. Mike Evans obviously there. Cameron Brate gets in the end zone. So I think Winston at 6,200 is more than viable this week. That's an interesting price tag on him, but it seems like right when he starts to trend positive is when he'll get you. Carson Wentz, 6,100 against a Jets secondary that is anything but good, in my opinion. Carson Wentz has been the definition of consistent if you're playing him in cash games this year, and you've been getting him at very favorable price points. 5,600, then you get him on the showdown slate. 5,700 week one. A lot of people were on him. Started off slow, had the big second half, came back, threw 3 touchdowns, had the 300-yard game against Washington. This is a good spot against the Jets at home. You might have Deshaun Jackson back. You'll have probably a fully healthy Alshon, a guy who probably wouldn't have played in that game on Thursday night had they not needed that win, right? You don't want to go 1-3. So Carson Wentz, a guy who does have mobility in terms of extending plays and does have some rushing upside. I mean, obviously not as much as the Deshaun's, the Lamar Jacksons up top, the Kyler Murrays, but does have the upside to get you 2 to 3 points on the ground. I like Carson Wentz there. Let's see what else we have. Dak at 6K, Green Bay versus Arizona. They're both sick, or versus Dallas, Aaron Rodgers and Dak both 6K. I'm going to maybe hold off on that, although Dak and GPPs after a bad week, now going home to play the Packers, who pass rush looks good. Don't sack Carson Wentz though on Thursday night, so that's concerning. And the run defense looks terrible. Right now, I don't lean to go to the passing game of Dallas. Matt Ryan on the road against Houston. Rivers at home against Denver. This is an interesting spot because he's cheap. And here's the thing, though. This Chargers offense, they just lost Sean Culkin, a third-string tight end. They've already lost 3 tight ends this year. It's pretty much just Lance Kendricks out there right now. They lost Dontrell Inman during that game. Inman came out of the game with, I think, like a quad injury. So I imagine they have back. They're going to have back Melvin Gordon. I imagine that they get back probably Mike Williams. So maybe this offense comes a little bit back together, but the big thing is watch Denver's secondary. They've been down Kareem Jackson, and then they were down Bryce Callahan. So 2 secondary players that they've been down now and battling injuries. So keep an eye on that. That makes the Chargers a lot better plays. Andy Dalton, this is interesting. So Andy Dalton, $5,700 versus at home against Arizona. We know Arizona just gives up points to all the positions, quarterback being one of them. Dalton playing tonight on Monday Night Football. He's been good this year. This Zach Taylor offense, I think, is legit. And he's been good for fantasy purposes for sure. So Andy Dalton at 5,700 is a nice price tag. So what's standing out to me right now is definitely Dalton against Arizona because he's home, and Wentz against the Jets. I usually like to try and find a 5K. Derek Carr, questionable. Obviously, no Big Ben. Rudolph at home against Baltimore, not where I want to go. Mitch on the road against Oakland. Mitch on the road against Oakland at 5,100 is interesting, but he had the shoulder injury. It doesn't look good. Kyle Allen at home against Jacksonville. If Ramsey plays, no interest. Teddy Bridgewater. Wow, this 5K range so far is gross. I mean, it's just all... Usually you find a diamond in the rough down here, but, I mean, Darnold would maybe be that player against a banged-up Phillies secondary. But Darnold doesn't seem to be being back this week. Cam doesn't seem to come back. At home against Minnesota for Daniel Jones. Price up, no thank you. Josh Allen on the road against Tennessee. Not a spot that I want to target, and he just got a concussion. So it's kind of Dalton, and it's kind of Carson Wentz. Let me go with Wentz just because I feel a little bit more confident. Both teams are at home. Feel a little bit more confident in that offense for Philadelphia consistently in terms of over the course of a season. But to be honest with you, I think that Cincinnati offense, we'll see what they do tonight against Pittsburgh, who is actually a pretty decent run defense. Obviously, pieces are getting healthier for them on the defense, Minka Fitzpatrick. But we'll go with Wentz there. Running backs. Wow. All the studs are on this slate for running back right now. Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, Cook. Oh, my God. Elliott. Obviously, Saquon's going to be hurt. We just had David Johnson go for what did David Johnson do? He had 8 catches for 99, just missed a 100-yard bonus. Yeah, I mean, we just had vintage David Johnson, double-digit targets, 8 catches, just misses 100 yards receiving. We had pretty much what is vintage Christian McCaffrey, or maybe it's just consistent Christian McCaffrey now, going for 179 total yards, a touchdown, another 10-target, 10-catch game, similar to what he had week 1. I mean, this guy's floor is quickly becoming 25 points. Obviously, we saw this just absolute terrible game against Tampa. A lot of that had to do, though, with Cam Newton's arm and Tampa having a stout run defense. So, I mean, McCaffrey's always a guy I just want to squeeze in there. That quickly bumps down our spend. So, you have Cook against the Giants, who all over the place have been bad on defense. You have, so many favorable spots for these running backs. Kamara at home against Tampa. We know Tampa coming into last week was a bottom 10 pass defense, and then Jared Goff throws 68 times against them for 500 yards. That's a really good spot for Kamara, who's right now just getting a ton of touches, 80+% of the touches this past week, even with Murray back there. I think I'm going to try this. I think I'm going to try and put Zeke in here. Zeke at home faces Green Bay, who just got torched last week by Miles Sanders and really anything Philly was doing on the ground. Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard both had really good games against them. Now you have Zeke, who my only concern with Zeke was, are they going to start to get him involved in the passing game? And how much of Tony Pollard do we see moving forward? Well, Tony Pollard didn't touch the ball in a close game last night. They said, no, you know what, Zeke, we paid you a lot of money. Now here comes the tough part of our schedule. Now that we have the Giants, Redskins, and Dolphins out of the way, it's the Zeke show. And Zeke saw 24 touches on 25 opportunities. He had 7 targets. He got involved in the passing game. Only touchdown in the game for Dallas. I mean, it's vintage Zeke now, and you're getting him at a favorable price point, in my opinion, of $8,300 relative to the other top-end plays. Zeke at home against what looks like a really struggling Montrevious Adams, I think it is his name, if I'm getting that right, for the Packers run defense, run stopper. They look really bad without him. Obviously, Mike Daniels, who is now injured for the Lions, they looked pretty vulnerable against Dalvin Cook, and then obviously against the Eagles, who don't really have a great running back. Miles Sanders could be good. Jordan Howard is mad to good. I'll put Zeke in there and see what we can do with the rest of this lineup right now. Saquon's going to be out. David Johnson, again, we talked about him against the Bengals. This is a very favorable spot, even though it's on the road. The rushing consistency, he's still getting all the touches. I mean, I think Chase Edmonds, the backup, had like 2 carries or something. So it's just a matter of like, do they stay ahead or in neutral situations? But then he gets involved in the passing game, so it's nice. Melvin Gordon at $7,000 comes back at home against Denver, who Leonard Fournette just went for like 225 rushing yards against. Interesting that they have Eckler still priced up. I don't want, even though it's a nice in terms of pass catching matchup and overall usage for Bell is going to be high, it's just really hard to see Luke Falk moving the ball. This is the offense or defense that maybe be the easiest against the Eagles, but Leonard Fournette, was it 225? Let's see. Yeah, 225. He had an 81-yard run in there. Still staying involved in the receiving game. His worst receiving game, and he still had 4 points in the receiving game. So this guy's floor in the receiving game is just so good right now against the Carolina defense. That the secondary is strong. If Dante Jackson comes back, Bradbury, that secondary has looked pretty strong. They did get beat multiple times, once by Will Fuller, once by DeAndre Hopkins this past weekend, and Deshaun Watson just missed them. If I was a huge Will Fuller owner once Dante Jackson went out, Will Fuller had about a 65-yard touchdown or so, just overthrown. Like, he was wide open, nobody there, missed him by about 1 foot. He was 3-4 steps ahead of the defender, and Deshaun Watson just misses him. That's probably the third time that's happened this year. Derrick Henry at home against Buffalo. I mean, you want to target him at home. Buffalo's a really tough defense to really want to run against. Joe Mixon, I just have no interest. Maybe he does something tonight. James Conner's price point's coming down, but against Baltimore, that's tough. Mark Ingram on the road against Pittsburgh. Always in play at 6,300 with the overall success that he's been having on the ground and just the touchdowns around the red zone. Sony Michel looked good this past weekend, got a ton of, he had pretty much like 17 out of 19 carries, I think, for running backs. Nothing's just standing out down here. I mean, I know Devonta Freeman got involved, but it was mainly in the passing game, right? Yeah, 8 catches on 9 targets. Do you see that same getting down big like they did to the Titans game script? I don't want to really project that for cash games. Nothing stands out. Josh Jacobs at home, but the matchup against the Bears is terrible, so a really good price point for a guy who's being considered as the workhorse right now. You see 19 touches total this past week, but not against the Bears. Yeah, nothing stands out. Miles Sanders at home against the Jets, sure, but it's still just a backfield filled with so many running backs. So not much is standing out, guys. In terms, maybe I'm missing something low because of an injury. Marlon Mack was the only guy who got injured, but I don't think they're on this slate. Yeah, in terms of running backs that I saw. So Zeke and it's a bunch of top end guys at running back. So it's hard to see where you want to go. I guess we'll put somebody in here. Fournette getting a ton of the usage, obviously still. 31 touches this past week. That's good to see. It's really hard not to want to just load up on these guys up here, right? Zeke and Kamara and see what or Zeke and McCaffrey and see what we can do elsewhere. So let's see what we can do elsewhere. I'll quickly put in a cheap home, maybe favorite defense. Pittsburgh at home, 2,100 is really cheap. Cincinnati at home, bad defense. Giants are bad defense. Carolina at home against Jacksonville. Maybe we take that. Chargers at home, really banged up. They lost Melvin Ingram. We'll see how long he's going to be out. Raiders at home, bad defense, but you might have Chase Daniels playing. So let's put that one in, right? $2,700. I like to go to favorites at home. I don't know if the Raiders are considered a favorite right now. I guess we're going to have to really wait and see on that line, depending on what we get from the news on Mitch Trubisky's left shoulder. So we have $4,800 to spend. Let's throw a tight end in there to see what else we can get and see if we can afford these 2 top-end stud running backs. It seems like it's going to be difficult, but let's see. Zach Ertz, 6K. We're not going to be able to afford a top-end tight end if this is what we're working with right here. Evan Ingram is 5,800 against Minnesota. That seems fine. Darren Waller is a really tough matchup here, but this seems okay because his price point comes down in a game where they pretty much led the entire game. They led this entire game. Waller had 5 catches, I think, at halftime for 50 or 60 yards. And then he just wasn't involved because they weren't passing in the second half. Josh Jacobs saw 17 carries. It was a game script where they got out ahead against Indy, and they never really looked back, and he wasn't needed. But still, in a game like that, he still sees 8 targets, 7 catches, leads the team in targets, has a good game. So I think it's fine to go back to him against Chicago. We'll just see, though, because maybe this is another game script they get ahead and obviously a tough defense. Mark Andrews, again, sees another 8 targets, gets in the end zone. This guy's just fantastic. Price point goes down. Very confusing. It's against Pittsburgh, who in the middle of the field against slot receivers and tight ends have not been good for years now. Austin Hooper seems like a legit target. Obviously, you have Matt Ryan throwing 50-plus times, which skews a lot of this, but he seems like a legit number 1 tight end. Look at this usage. Last year, he was averaging 5.5 targets a game. This year, well above that, closer to 8 targets a game, 7.5. He's just being used so much. Greg Olson at home against Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a little bit weak against tight end. They lost Telvin Smith, obviously not there this year. Interesting. So tight ends, I mean, who's, I guess you have CJ Uzomah and Tyler Eifert. This is where people are going to want to go this week, right? Because they're facing Arizona, but you see Uzomah not really much usage overall. Eifert not as well. So Eifert's seeing, I think I did the Monday Night Football video, 40% of the snaps, but not running, and 40% of the snaps running 60 routes so far this year through 3 games. Obviously, they play tonight. A little bit more usage in terms of snaps for Uzomah, playing 60% of the snaps, but 9 less routes run on the year, so 3 less per game. This is a decent spot because he's only 3,300, but I'd rather get a guy who's going to have a little bit more volume. Let's throw Delanie Walker in there. So Delanie Walker has a bad game, right? Week 4 against Atlanta, which is surprising. But now you get a Buffalo defense that, well, one, they're coming home, and a Buffalo defense that is very similar to the Indy defense he played week 2, where he had a decent game, 7.9 points for 3,900. It's not terrible. That they want to funnel to the tight end position. The same Indy defense gave up a ton of catches this past week, right, to Darren Waller, 7 catches. They gave up a big game to Austin Hooper. He scored 2 touchdowns. So Delanie Walker seems okay for the price point, and that gives us $5K to spend the rest of our positions. I don't know how we'll be able to afford this, but let's see what we can do here. Top end, Hopkins, Julio, Adams. Obviously the turf toe is going to miss sometime, it seems, but it seems like they're optimistic he avoided a huge injury. Keenan Allen is $300. Wait, his price point came down $300? What? Keenan Allen, somehow his price point comes down. Very confusing in my opinion. Especially if Denver is going to be battling injuries and now you're home and maybe still have some guys injured out there as well. Obviously, Melvin Gordon comes back, maybe takes away a little bit of overall passing game volume, but I don't know about how much. So that's interesting. I don't know if we could afford it for this type of a lineup. Godwin's price point goes from $6,900 to $6,000 to $6,900 in a 3-week span. These guys both were able to coexist yesterday in a game that had a ton of overall shootout value. Amari against Green Bay. That should be a fun matchup. Him against Jair Alexander. AJ Green, I just got a notification he's going to miss a couple more weeks. Thielen, this would be a smash spot, but Thielen had like 1 catch this past week against against the Bears. Definitely matchup dependent, but I mean, you saw 30-plus targets, 35-plus, I think, 36 exactly from Kirk Cousins, and it was the first time that he had that much passing volume, and Thielen doesn't get used. Again, a fantastic matchup, but I'm concerned that this is a Dalvin Cook smash spot, which is maybe something we look at in terms of our running backs for cash. Michael Thomas, 6,600. Wow, even with the obviously Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball to him, he's still been able to survive, and the 6,600 seems way too cheap. Caught all 100% of his passes on Sunday Night Football. Looked good, was by far the best receiver on the field for either team in that game. Outplayed Amari, just was getting open, and he does exactly what he does. He gets open in the short to intermediate routes. Michael Thomas is not a deep threat. He's a guy who will run 10 to 11-yard routes, as you've seen all year right now. His average catch rate is probably right around 10. This is a nice price point for him. Tyler Boyd for Monday Night Football is in a fantastic spot, and he's going to be in a fantastic spot next week. He is the Robert Woods / Cooper Kupp of this Zach Taylor offense. Zach Taylor, the former coach, wide receivers, and quarterback coach for the Rams the past 2 years, 2017, 2018. And Tyler Boyd has just looked fantastic. Like, Tyler Boyd, these are floor games of 12 targets, 11 targets. I think he has 4 or 5 drops this year, so that obviously hurts us. But when your floor games are averaging, 13.5 fantasy points, and then you obviously get your ceiling games right around here when you catch all your passes and don't drop 2 a game, this is a huge smash spot for Tyler Boyd against Arizona, who's just been struggling against every position. Quarterback, tight end, obviously everybody knows about now. Will Dissly having a good game. But seems like a great spot for Boyd. But how do you pay $100 less when you can have Michael Thomas there? What happens if we get Michael Thomas in this lineup? We have $4,500. That's not terrible, but it's hard once we start to get down here. Let's see if we can find a cheap wide receiver. Diggs, again, another good game from him, over 100 yards, but it's just tough to trust that in cash. Larry Fitz against Cincy. Cincy, obviously, the past game we talked about is weak. I mean, Larry Fitz is consistent, especially for cash. Like, if this is going to be his worst game, and a game where Kyler Murray just doesn't play well the past 2 weeks, and Fitz still scores 14.6, still scores almost 10, That's pretty solid for cash as the price point comes up $400. Sterling Shepard, I don't have interest. Golden Tate's coming back this week. I know that you've seen for 2 weeks Daniel Jones locked in on him, but Golden Tate coming back is worrisome. Allen Robinson against Oakland's a good matchup if Mitch Trubisky is there. So lots of question marks in this 5K range at wide receiver. John Brown would be a good play against Tennessee. Bad cornerbacks out there, and Adore Jackson's okay. Malcolm Butler bad, but maybe no Josh Allen. So this is worrisome. McLaurin against Stephon Gilmore, even if he plays, isn't great. Emmanuel Sanders against potentially Desmond King in the slot, but then moving outside to face Casey. He actually faced a backup, so this isn't a bad spot. Cortland Sutton probably gets Casey Hayward. Deshaun Hamilton in the slot gets Desmond King. So Kirk got a bad ankle injury, it looked like. Wow, so we got a lot down here. This is a maybe okay spot. Philip Dorsett at 4,900. I mean, we need to find money somewhere. Dorsett had 9 targets in a game where none of the offensive players can get anything going. Now he gets Washington, not a zone defense, right? Buffalo, I was talking about it all week. Buffalo's not going to let Dorsett beat them deep, and they didn't. 2 catches, 9 yards. Like, Buffalo's his own defense. Let's see what happens if we put Dorsett in here, who's been consistently seeing high target volume. I want to get to one of these 6K wide receivers, like Michael Thomas or Tyler Boyd. And I think I'm going to try and get to Thomas for obvious reasons. He's just by far the better receiver, and he has a fantastic matchup. Tyler Boyd, good receiver, fantastic matchup, but $100 more. I want to get to Michael Thomas there. So 6,600. We might have to come off of one of these guys up here. I'm going to try and come off of McCaffrey. That's so scary because this guy's just the definition of 30-point bombs week in and week out. He's just, I don't know how defenses don't stop him when all he does is get the ball, right? But let's see if we can come off of him and go somewhere else just for now. Let's see if we save $1,200 and get to David Johnson in a really, really beneficial matchup. This gets us a piece of that Arizona-Cincy faster pace game and both really bad defenses. So now we have $5,000 to spend. So where can we go? Let's see. Anything stands out. Michael Gallup's probably going to miss some more time. Calvin Ridley on the outside against Houston. For Houston on the outside, it's not a bad matchup. Wow, we're pretty deep down here. This is interesting. So Mohamed Sanu, a guy who's pretty like the definition of like 7 targets a game or so, he's going to have a really good matchup in the slot against Houston. So Houston, week 1, cut Aaron Colvin against the Saints, who just looked terrible. He was terrible. I don't even know if he's been signed. And since then, they've really struggled defending the slot. You get sort of I wouldn't say a model of consistency for cash, but in terms of relying on 6 targets in a pass-first offense, Mohamed Sanu makes some sense. Definitely not high upside for tournaments, but let's see what happens if we put him in there. And then we have $5,800 to spend in a flex. This is the issue, though. Like, the flex spots, the running backs this week, it seems like in the mid-range aren't great. Like, it seems like it's very, obviously, top-heavy, right? This is a tough week to make early lineups for a first-look video. Because you have Leonard Fournette getting a ton of usage against Carolina on the road. That seems nice. If we can somehow get to that, I will. I would like to get to that if we can get up there. $600 more we need. But then the mid-range is kind of weak. I mean, James Conner, a tough matchup. Joe Mixon, he's only playing 49% of the snaps, and so is Gio, so that's not great to pay up for. Derrick Henry at home against a tough matchup in Buffalo, still going to get fed 27 carries, I think, this past week. Yeah, 27 carries. Okay spot at best. Aaron Jones would potentially know. Aaron Jones, I guess, is a nice play with potentially no Jamal Williams out there to take any carries from him, so you might see a 20-plus game out of Aaron Jones after seeing last week him catch 6 balls, which is really good to see. So Aaron Jones at 5,900, if we could fit that, maybe we get there, because nothing else really stands out as something that I want to play down here. This is all guys that are splitting time in backfields, and it gets gross really, really quickly. So Aaron Jones with no Jamal Williams. I don't know what the status of Jamal Williams actually is. Let's see. Doubtful. So, I guess maybe Aaron Jones. I mean, on the road's not great, but the involvement in the passing game was fantastic to see. We can come down at defense just to fit him in here. What time do the Packers play? Do we have to put him in the 4 o'clock? Yep, there you go. So Aaron Jones fits in nicely for our flex spot. And then we have $2,600 to spend on a defense. Carolina at home, I'll take it. Good secondary. Jacksonville, Minshew has been actually decent, but not somebody that I trust. So let's see what that gives us. It gives us Carson Wentz. We can go back down if we wanted to Andy Dalton and save $400, but I'm not sure if that gets us anywhere that we really would like to be. Let's see. If we go to Andy Dalton here, I kind of want Carson Wentz more so. If we go to Andy Dalton, can we get anywhere else at wide receiver? Maybe take out a Philip Dorsett. We get D.D. Westbrook, who's seeing targets, but overall just not playing well this year, in my opinion. You get DJ Moore, no. John Ross, I mean, we're not trying to stack, obviously, in cash. This matchup for Emmanuel Sanders is interesting to me because Cortland Sutton probably draws Casey Hayward. Desmond King will draw Deshaun Hamilton in the slot. And then you get Emmanuel Sanders, who's going to be on the outside against a backup cornerback. Still no Derwin James, still no Adrian Phillips. So, I mean, getting from Phillip Dorsett to Emmanuel Sanders feels good. And that secondary for the Chargers, in my opinion, is overrated right now. Desmond King's the best slot cornerback in the league, no doubt about it. But it's overrated in terms of how good it was last year because you don't have Derwin James, you don't have Adrian Phillips, you don't have a backup cornerback. Your number 2 cornerback is an undrafted free agent right now who, for the most part, is holding his own to an extent, not great. And now you have injuries to Melvin Ingram on that defensive line. So Emmanuel Sanders seems to be a better play, in my opinion, than Phillip Dorsett for cash. We have $200 left over. Can we get off of Mohamed Sanu? I don't think Mohamed Sanu is a terrible overall player. I guess depending on what happens tonight, Deontay Johnson, James Washington. If Deontay Johnson continues to see snaps and targets, he'll continue to see snaps. But last week, his first week as a starter, catches a touchdown, 6 targets. Baltimore secondary, if Jimmy Smith is still out, their secondary is terrible when you take away Jimmy Smith. Already no slot corner. Tavon Young for the whole season. Marlon Humphreys has been battling injury all season long so far, although been so dominant. If that slot cornerback's out, maybe we go to Deontay Johnson in this lineup. Corey Davis came alive a little bit, but probably gets shadowed by Tre'Davious White. Yeah, A.J. Brown, I know he went off, but it's been on like little volume, right? His big catches, he has yet to see a ton of volume in a game or a ton of snaps, so I don't want to rely on that in cash. Yeah, nothing stands out down here, to be honest with you guys and girls. So I think we're going to put Mohamed Sanu in at 4,200. And that's that. I feel good about a lineup like this. Obviously, if there's a way throughout the week to get up and maybe we go to a wide receiver in the flex, and then we can get ourselves up to Christian McCaffrey and off of David Johnson, find $1,200 somewhere, save like $300 more on a defense, get up a little bit. Tight end, can we get anywhere else with 4,100? You get to Greg Olson against Jacksonville. Greg Olson's been pretty consistent all year long. Last week, that whole offense, though, struggled. That whole game was kind of a struggle to watch outside of Christian McCaffrey, of course. So the good matchup for O.J. Howard, but he's just not getting on the field a lot. Give me Delaney Walker there. And I think that's where we go. I think I like Zeke at running back. For an extra $200, you can get up to Dalvin Cook in this lineup if you want. But seeing Zeke get involved in the passing game, seeing how bad the Packers defense was on the ground last week. David Johnson, I like there. We can't get up from him with $200 more. I think this is a good spot. The only spot I think you go down maybe is Michael Thomas to move up off of Mohamed Sanu or move up and get easier used to a Christian McCaffrey, but I think I like what we're getting here. I think I like this. I think I prefer Michael Thomas over Cooper, who's going to face Alexander probably this week. I prefer Michael Thomas slightly over Boyd. So yeah, I think that's good. Quarterback Andy Dalton's a little bit concerning, but a really good matchup in Arizona. And we can't get up to Carson Wentz. I think I would rather get to Carson Wentz in this lineup if possible and get down to maybe another bad defense. I keep going down. Defense doesn't really matter, in my opinion, too much at this point. Pitt's defense at home against Baltimore in a divisional game seems like a spot where maybe it can stay low scoring. The pass rush is definitely there. That's interesting to me, honestly, as a $2,100 defense. That's not terrible. Obviously, no, Lamar Jackson can do a lot of stuff, but for the most part, we know how to stop that team, or at least you know how to stop Baltimore. In terms of just what they did this past week, just shut down Hollywood Brown. Deep threats are really hard to come by for them, and then Lamar has to rely heavily on his legs. So this seems interesting. Another $300 to spend. I don't want to keep tweaking it, but obviously now we have some more cap room. Somebody actually I want to look up. I want to look up somebody because he plays tonight. This is interesting. So watch this guy. Auden Tate, 3,500. He took over the wide receiver 3 role from Damian Willis, who is now a special teams player. Alex Erickson, he jumped him quickly. This is the Zach Taylor offense I'm talking about, that he is like a Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp hybrid in week 1, or his first week really in week 3. 6 catches on 10 targets, 88 yards. Depending on what he does tonight, I'm going to have interest in him in showdown slate, but I hope he doesn't do too much, because if he doesn't do too much, we're going to get a guy in Auden Tate who is going to be on the field a lot in an offense that should have a ton of great matchups. He specifically will have a great matchup. And at 3,500, maybe you don't get 10 targets as a wide receiver 3 in this offense, but you might get 6, you might get 7, and that might be a $700 savings off of a guy like Sanu, and now we have an extra $1,000 to spend, and we're getting very close to be able to afford our guy up here in Christian McCaffrey. Right now, we could actually afford Dalvin Cook, and this is starting to look a lot better, in my opinion, just off of a quick move like that. You move from Mohamed Sanu to Auden Tate. I don't think you're losing that much upside. You might actually be gaining upside. So yeah, I think I feel good about this. We can get down. I keep tweaking it, but this is fun. We can get back down to Andy Dalton here. And that, I think, allows us, bing, 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 that allows us to get up to Christian McCaffrey. So there's a lineup that I think is interesting early on. Andy Dalton, Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, Sanders, Michael Thomas, Auden Tate, Delaney Walker, Aaron Jones in the flex with no Jamal Williams. Steelers defense, dirt cheap price point, but a divisional matchup at home. The defense secondary is getting stronger with Minka and Joe Hayden healthy. That's where I'm at right now. Long video for a first look, but it's fun. It was really cool to get through that process. Right now, hopefully you can follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. Check it out. Link down below is my merchandise. Merch just dropped, new merch. You can check out that shop. You can check out my exclusive content over on Patreon. Appreciate it. My name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a patron, you can hit that button on Patreon. Become a patron. It will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.